Well, hey there. Welcome back, my palsies. And welcome to the it's our third show. We're going strong here on how not to succeed in showbiz, my 20-year overnight success. This is Larry, and I want to say thanks to all my pals that are really supporting this fun little thing I'm doing. Let's call it my midlife crisis. How about that? And instead of going out and buying a Maserati and going out and doing a bunch of stupid things, I'm just sitting here in my little studio telling stories and hoping someone will listen. Keep that patience strong, because we will actually get to showbiz-related things. But right now, we're still just gearing up, telling the childhood stories of how it all began. So what I want to talk about tonight is something that's kind of dear to me. And so really, for those that knew me back in 8th grade, will appreciate this story. We're going to talk now go back to music for a little bit. We talked about comedy last time and the passion of music. So I want to talk about my first success, or my first experience of really kind of facing the music, no pun intended, back when I was in 8th grade. So we're going to talk about our music influence from our first music teacher, Joe Matthews. And Joe Matthews was a man that was from the big band era of Glenn Miller and Benny Goodman and those kind of things. A little bit younger, but around then. And very serious musician. He was like a Wayne Newton, where he played a little bit of everything. I, once again, dating myself by saying Wayne Newton. Wayne Newton's a guy who was in the 60s as a kid who could just play like 20 instruments and play them exceptionally well. Now he's like the hugest thing in Vegas. And maybe we can equivocate that to Prince, who Prince is very talented through all of the fashion statements and all of the other things about him. He truly is a talented musician, and same thing, he plays a bunch of instruments. So think of somebody like that. So when I was in 4th grade, I was in a combination class, which meant we had 3rd and 4th graders in the same class. And we had this big music class that we had to take. I think it was once a week, where this is my first taste of Joe Matthews coming in, and we learned about music, basic music theory, and we learned how to play the recorder. Does everybody know what the recorder is? The little plastic flute? The real recorders are made out of wood, but of course we got the plastic ones that were in the cellophane, and you pop it out, and there's your instrument. And huge class, though. Probably in this class there were probably about 50 kids. And he would stand at the front of the class, and he would bring his clarinet out, and he'd play notes, and we'd have to guess whether they were sharp or flat. Well, this was back when I had the big Peter Brady haircut, when I was about 9, and I had this huge head of hair. And this particular day, this was before Joe Matthews knew me, he had all of us in there. And I had to wear, it was a wintry day, and I was forced to wear a knitted turtleneck sweater that my Aunt Barbara made for me. And much like Ralphie in A Christmas Story having to wear the pink bunny suit on Christmas Day, I had to wear the turtleneck sweater, which doesn't sound off, first blush, doesn't sound like a bad thing. But when, you'll hear in a second, you add this big knitted, big bulky kind of a sweater with big bulky hair, and this is what happened. Sitting in the class, and Mr. Matthews blew into his clarinet, and he says, "Okay, who could tell me if this is sharp or flat? Just raise your hand." My hand goes up first. I'm in the back of the class. Some other hands go up, and he goes, "The young lady in the back." I'm looking around, but he looks back, and nothing. Put my hand back up. More hands go back up. He goes, "Yeah, the young lady in the back." And I'm looking around, and he goes, "You," and he's pointing at me. I go, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy," and everybody starts laughing. Now, it's funny once, but he did it again. I think it was the second day, or maybe later on in the day. I can't remember. That was my first introduction to Joe Matthews. Later on, though, as I started to pursue my drumming. He became my drum teacher in class when I actually joined the band in 5th grade. And then later on in 6th and 7th grade and part of 8th grade, his son Jody gave me private drum lessons. And we're going to talk more about Joe in a couple more podcasts. But I just wanted to set you up for who Joe was. Joe loved music, and he loved to teach it. And when you embraced it as much as he did, he took care of you, and you were his special student, where he would just do everything he could to make you the best musician, and he knew how. And so what he would do is he would showcase the talent that he was very proud of, and apparently he was proud of me. And so in 7th grade, the spring of my 7th grade year, he told me while I was taking my private lessons, by the way, he came into the garage while I was practicing with his son, you're going to do a show next year. It's going to showcase you. It's called Portrait of a Drummer. And I was like, okay. And you're going to do a solo. So right away, I probably passed out. I don't know what happened. I got lightheaded, and I got real panicky and shaky, and I'm like, when? He goes, well, like Christmas time. And I had no idea what I was about to do. He goes, don't worry, it's a written piece of music, and Jody's going to write the drum solo for you, and you're just going to play it. And I was like, woo, okay, I can do that. Jody will teach me, we'll be fine. So the summer of 78, I'm practicing, and trying not to think about that I'm going to have to do this, perform it. I'm just learning it. There's actually music I had to learn, so I had to learn this drum pattern. And then there's this part in the song where the music stops, and then what in my head appears to be a 75-minute drum solo, which is probably in real life a minute, but to me it was forever. So practicing goes on. We're going to flash forward now to it got close to the showtime. Now, about 2 weeks before the school concert, he actually finally brought me into the band, with the full orchestra. With my drum set. They had never heard me play it. They were practicing for like 3 months without me there, at least that song. And then they set up the drum set, and I sat down to play it. And I was very stressed out because it's the first time my peers, my best friends, are going to hear me play this thing. And I played it well, and everybody was excited, and the kids were all, you were great, that was awesome. So I felt really good. I had this relief of like, it's all over with. I'm done. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute. This was just a practice. I got to do this thing in a couple weeks. Now, in the town we grew up in, our junior high was actually pretty big. We had a few hundred kids, so it wasn't, although we were in a small town, it wasn't like the junior high had 20 kids in it. So it's getting close to showtime, or the show was coming up in December. Now, my father was 59 years old at the time, and I was about 13 and a half. He had a heart attack that put him in a hospital for a while, and he recovered, and he got better. But as a result of the heart attack, he came down with what's called the gout, and it affects your foot, and you can't walk. It's excruciating pain, and your foot swells up. And he came down with this the week before I was to perform this. This was December of 78. My performance day was December 7th, 1978. Does anybody remember what December 7th is? It's very famous in history. The attack of Bueller, Pearl Harbor. So he could not attend my concert because he was laid up on the couch. We lived in a small apartment that my parents managed, and for a couple weeks he just slept, ate, just was on the couch in the living room and really couldn't get around very well. And so he couldn't attend. I remember the night of the concert, my sisters making sure my sweater, my clothes were all laid out right, and we're getting all ready to go. And I'm just about like to just hurl. I was so nauseous. And my dad's, sitting there on the couch smoking his pipe, going, "You're going to do fine. Don't worry about it." And I was really kind of thrown off because I wanted him to be there, and he was my biggest fan for, probably everything I did. And my mom as well, but, dads and sons, that kind of a thing. So I went to go to do the show, and now we're playing on this stage. It's in the multi-purpose room, and my drum set's at the lip of the stage, at the end of the stage. So the music comes up, and I play my thing, and it comes to the solo, and I just want to get through it. And I know that I play the solo 10 times faster than it was supposed to be. I think there were close to 500 people there. That's a lot, because if you figure there's like 80 kids in the band, I don't know, 2 parents each, 160, had some kids, brothers and sisters, relatives. So there might have really been 200 people. But my whole life I've been saying there were 500 people, so please humor me and let's say there were 500 people there. It seemed like it. The whole multipurpose room was jam-packed. So the solo's over, or actually in the middle of the solo, everybody starts applauding, and then when it was done, they applauded, then the song ends again. It has like a few stages to it. And I was just so relieved it was over with. I was just like, oh, man, it was like, woo. I faced it. I conquered it. That was the separation from the men from the boys. I did this big show, and I got through it. All I cared about was over with. Next day at school, in homeroom, the first period where you sit there and just do your homework, it's kind of a free time, one of my dear friends from childhood, growing up, Michelle, stood up in the class and said she wanted to make an announcement. She just wanted to say how proud she was of me and what a great job I did, and she wished that everybody could have been there last night to see it. And that really just was really sweet. I actually had a crush on her when I was little, when I was in 5th grade, and she'd been a good friend continuing through high school. And that was really kind of her, and she played clarinet in the band, so that was a lot of fun. Now, one thing Joe Matthews did, which was very a big deal back in the 70s, was he had this huge casing made out of wood, a cabinet, that he had a very high-tech cassette recorder in, stereo cassette recorder that had mic volume meter controls on it, to control levels, and he had a little mixer. And he used to record every concert we did. He had these several mics he would put up on these big booms, and he would record the concerts as best he could, and they actually came out pretty good, and he would give everybody that wanted one a master cassette tape of it. Well, this was actually great because my dad was going to get to hear me play, but on a cassette tape, on one of those little portable cassette players. It's just one speaker, and it was even before boom boxes. So I got the tape and I brought it home. I said, Dad, here's my solo. He goes, I want to hear it. And it was in the evening after dinner, and night was pretty much over. And I said, well, I'll play it for you, but I don't want to be in here when you listen to it. And so what I did was I brought the cassette player out while he was sitting there and put the cassette in. And I said, well, I'm going to leave. So you play, I'm going to leave. But wait till I leave. Now, we lived in this small apartment, like I said, and there's no hallway. It's the living room, bumps into the bathroom, bumps into my room, and my parents' room is next door. So it's like you can't, it wasn't like I was going far away. So I go in my room, shut the door, and I'm in the dark. And I told my mom, okay, you can hit play. What? Where's the button that says, no, not that button? It's rewinding, and it's just, I'm yelling at my mom through the door. Finally, she got the button right, because I had it all queued up to the song. He didn't want to hear the whole, I think we did Hogan's Heroes theme, the theme from Hogan's Heroes that year too, so he didn't have to hear all that stuff. So anyways, he pushed play, and I could hear the music obviously through the door. I'm just sitting there in the dark with my head down. And he's on the couch, remember, because he has the gout still. And it's over with, and you hear all the cheering on the tape, and the cassette player is so lame that like the cheering, just because the cassette player is lame, it's all distorted. It's like blowing out the speaker. Not because they were cheering so loud, it's just because it was blowing out the speaker, cheap cassette player. And it's over with, and I hear the tape player stop, and I'm just kind of sitting there. And I hear my mom say, no, Steve, no. Just sit, Steve, just sit. Will you just sit? Don't. And then my door creeps open, and I'm sitting in the dark on the bed looking on the floor. And remember, again, the gout it's unbearable, the pain to walk on, what I'm told from other people that have had it. my dad walked into my darkened bedroom, and his eyes were watery, and he had his arms out. And he didn't really have much to say. He just wanted to hug me. And I said, "Did you like it?" And he said, "I loved it." And that was probably the biggest hug I ever got. He was very proud of me. And that was it. We were done. I said, "Okay, all right, good to go." Now, what was cool was he got over the gout, and we later had an award ceremony for the year. And I knew I was going to get an award. Joe Matthews said, "I'm going to give you guys awards. We're having a dinner party at the NPR with they're going to put the cafeteria tables together and make like a big banquet. And so bring your parents." And this was like one of the first times like my parents attended something like this. So I was there, and we're all eating, and I'm with my friends. It's like, once again, it's one of the first times friends other than my closest friends ever knew my parents or anything like that. So it was fun having them there. And they knew it was special to me that my dad was there, and he had health problems. And so one of the guys whispered over to me, I can't remember his name, but he was a sax player. He said, "We're going to give you a standing ovation." And I was like, "What?" And Joe led up to my award and said some things about me, and then the award goes to, said my name, and I got up, and everybody stood up. And that, like, my dad looks around and sees this table of, like, 25, 30 people standing up. And they stood up, and he was just thrilled, and he stood up too, and that meant a lot to me. About a month later, my father had another heart attack and went into a coma for about a week, and he passed away. But you cannot be sad, because the glass is half full. I was very thankful that my dad got to see me, at least hear me play and see me get an award and do other things. It reminded me of the movie Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray's character is sitting at a bar with some drunk guys talking about how he had a perfect night where he was on a beach with this woman, and they spent the night together on the beach, and he said, "Why couldn't I live that day over and over again?" The gentleman next to him, he goes, "Pal, see this glass? Some people would say it's half empty. Some people would say it's half full. I'm pegging you as probably a glass is half empty kind of guy." Well, I'm quite the opposite. I'm a glass is half full. And that's how I look at things. I hope you guys can do that too. It's not easy to do that. You guys know me well. Oh, there's been plenty of times the glass was half empty. But no, it's I have to look back at that and be very thankful for that. So that's today's show. A little melancholy, but it's a good story that I wanted you guys to hear. And I thought it'd be fun to end with letting you guys hear a segment of Portrait of a Drummer. Instead of our normal closing music, I'm just going to have this start and end our show. And until next time, you guys rock. And thanks again for listening. So take care of everyone, and enjoy this little piece of Portrait of a Drummer from December 7th, 1978.